Hello, I'm Rebecca Weber. You're watching Better for America, presented by AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens. Now, joining me today is Congressman Barry Loudermilk from Georgia's 11th Congressional District. And AMAC's got over 6,500 AMAC members in his district alone. This congressman will share some very important information regarding January 6th. We'll be back with you in just a moment. Stay tuned.
The Association of Mature American Citizens is the conservative voice for Americans 50 and older. AMAC is fighting for the values that you hold dear. Join today. Together, we can write the course of America.
Congressman Loudermilk, thank you so much for joining us today on Better for America. I'm thrilled to have you with me.
Well, Rebecca, it's good to be with you.
Sir, you're the chairman of this important panel that is really overseeing what happened on January 6th. So it's really a privilege to have you here today. Thank you for coming on. And on behalf of our over 2 million AMAC members, we want to thank you for all that you're doing for America. I do want to dive right in. You're doing amazing oversight, in particular, about what went on regarding the January 6th investigating committee, and that was in the Democrat-controlled House. It turns out that it seems anyway, that they were creating sort of a tailored story to get Donald Trump and to hurt Republicans, not really looking for truth at all. Now, you've been discovering some remarkable things. They seem to have been untruthful things that we're learning, unethical things in terms of how they conducted and ran that committee. But maybe, perhaps, there might be some even guilty of committing some illegal acts themselves. So I do want to start at the beginning. Can you tell us what you and your committee has been doing to get vital information, these missing tapes, deposition transcripts, and all of that, and the documents that belong to Congress that were somehow either, it seems, hidden, destroyed, or, for reasons that make no sense to people like me, gone missing? Tell us a little bit about what you know.
Well, missing is probably the most appropriate term there, but I think it's important to go back to really the beginning to get an understanding of where we are and how we got here. Kevin McCarthy appointed me to be the chairman of this special subcommittee. And because of the importance of what we were doing, instead of reporting our work through the normal committee channel, I was basically reporting directly to the Speaker's office, which we still are today. But what he wanted was for us to look at the truth of what really happened on January 6th in an unbiased manner, not taking sides, not looking for a particular outcome, but looking for the truth of what really happened. And our mission was put into two major categories. One was the Capitol, the security of the Capitol. How did the Capitol fall? I mean, how were these people able to get in, regardless of who they were? They should have never been able to breach our security in the Capitol. And the second phase was looking at the committee itself, the Select Committee, and how they operated. And because it was unprecedented, the way they operated and some of the things that they did. So we put it into two phases. One of the first things they were required to do by House rules, as well as preservation letters that was sent from the incoming Speaker, then Kevin McCarthy, to the committee, was to preserve all the documents, all the documentation, everything that they acquired during their period of investigation. What was kept was handed over to us as a subcommittee. Now, what I expected was for them to turn over whatever database system they used with all the documents, because we know that they were using, even though they were printed copies, you digitize them. You put them in a searchable format. What we actually received were a couple of million or just under 2 million printed pages, hard copies that were thrown into boxes. They weren't cataloged or categorized anyway. And we received, I think, 5 hard drives of digital data. As we were going into it, we started realizing that we didn't have everything. We knew that the Select Committee, the Democrat-controlled committee, videotaped every deposition, every interview that they did. But we had none of those videotapes, which is something that is supposed to be retained. Then we started finding where documents that were House documents were sent to the White House for archiving, and some were sent to the Department of Homeland Security for archiving. Which was unprecedented at the time. But also, I wrote the former chairman of the Select Committee, Benny Thompson, a letter asking where were the videotapes of the depositions and why did you send these letters over to the White House, these documents to the White House and Homeland Security? And his response was that, well, you have all the printed testimonies, you don't need the videotapes, and therefore we didn't keep them. Which is interesting because it's the reason you videotape a deposition is because you want to hear voice inflection, you want to see body language. For instance, there's a big difference between someone answering a question by saying, I shot the clerk, versus, I shot the clerk? There's a big difference in that response. So it's important that we have that information. In fact, the vice chairman of the committee, Liz Cheney, just released her book, and in her book she talked about how important it was that they had those videotapes because in the videotapes is where you find the truth. But he told me they decided not to keep those. Also, he told me that there was national security information that's why in these depositions from the Secret Service and White House employees. Therefore, they needed to be sent to those agencies, which these are House documents. We have secure locations. We have what's called SCIFs, where we can store classified information if it's classified. But the bigger aspect of it was he said, we handed you over 4 terabytes of digital data. And basically he's saying that should be enough for you. Well, the issue was we had less than 3 terabytes of data. And that's a significant amount of data that was missing. So to try to figure out what we were missing, we hired an external forensics team to take the 5 hard drives and do a low-level analysis of them, scraping is what they call it, to see is there something that was corrupted or something that was hidden or something that was deleted that we should have. After doing the scrape, they found an enormous number of deleted documents. Not too surprising. If these are working hard drives, you delete things as you go. You have duplicates. And so that wasn't too surprising. But as we started comparing, we started finding that there were documents that we did not have that were recovered from the recycle bin or deleted folders. Now, something that raised our eyebrow was the date that the documents were deleted. And in particular, some were deleted on January 1st of 2023. Now, the reason that's important is the Republicans took control of the House on January 3rd, 2 days later. So this was literally hours before the Select Committee ceased to exist. And so it was interesting that these documents were deleted at that time. But more interesting, and one of the documents that we recovered that was deleted was related to the White House documents. So we knew that there were documents that were not given to us, purposely not given to us, that were also deleted by someone in the Select Committee. The other aspect of it was that we recovered over 100 documents that were hidden or deleted, that were password protected and encrypted, that we cannot get into to see what they are. And so that was very concerning as well. So we asked the chairman again, what is the password? And his response was, I don't know what you're talking about. And so we see this pattern of certain documents that we need these documents to get to the truth of what happened. What I'm suspecting is these documents are the ones that do not corroborate some other testimonies that they took as the truth. And we do know they cherry-picked evidence as they were doing their investigation. I experienced it. Other people experienced them cherry-picking evidence and basically only taking the evidence they wanted to hear and discarding evidence they didn't want to hear. And so our suspicion is most of these actually include information that doesn't corroborate testimony, for instance, from Cassidy Hutchinson, who was their star witness, who had multiple versions of testimony herself.
This is just unbelievable, and Americans aren't hearing about this. Of course, the legacy media is not picking up this kind of information and sharing it with the public. And the American people see that beginning to really question. I mean, January 6th, we can all agree that none of us think that it's right that people destroyed the Capitol and committed any type of crimes or caused bodily harm to other people. That's never a good thing. But thousands of people we know were there in good spirit, people who wanted to hear a farewell address from their president that peacefully marched and went home. And we know how they were traced and tracked and bank records and all kinds of things. Really, these people were gone after like bad criminals when they're just patriotic people who love their country. And now today, you're doing the great work you're doing, and you're facing lost, missing encryption codes that allow you access. They're cherry picking the data that they want to put in front of you. How confident are you that there will be a full, honest, and complete assessment, and that you'll eventually get copies of all of these tapes and transcripts back?
Well, I am confident that we're going to be able to get to these documents. I have been pressing the White House as well as the Department of Homeland Security. I've sent multiple letters to each. The White House, to my surprise, has been working with us. Initially, they sent us copies of the depositions, but they were heavily redacted. I mean, far more redacted than you would expect if you were just trying to protect the identity of someone or maybe some national security information. We have multiple pages that are totally blacked out. And so to me, that's unacceptable. These are House documents. They are not White House documents. They're House documents. It's our responsibility to archive and keep those. Now, I do understand if there is some national security information in there that may divulge, protection of the president. Look, I served in the Air Force. I worked in intelligence. I know how important that stuff is. I'm not out there to out any person or reveal someone's identity or release any national security secrets. But we do need to be able to get the truth. The White House has responded and at this point has offered for me to come to the White House and review the unredacted documents, which we will be doing. We're scheduling that now. We're still going to be seeking to get the documents on a permanent basis, but for now, it's the information that's within the documents that's important to our investigation. On the other hand, the Department of Homeland Security has ignored our requests. They haven't even responded to our letters. And so we're going to be using every tool in our toolbox to get the documents. I'm confident we will at some point. And so, the Department of our Homeland Security Committee right now is working on an impeachment. And if I need to, I'll work with our Homeland Security Committee to help us get those documents. One way or the other, I believe we're going to get to them. And I believe that those documents are the ones that, because those are the ones that are trying to be protected from us the most, I think that's where we're going to find the most information. Because from what we have gathered in our intelligence, we're confident that these are the depositions of the Secret Service agents who were with Donald Trump during all this time. Now, as compared to Cassidy Hutchinson's changed testimony that she changed later on, apparently after some meetings with Liz Cheney, started changing her testimony. Hers were hearsay. She heard somebody talk about an incident in the president's vehicle or something that happened in the cafeteria. Well, these are people who were actually there. And I think their testimony is going to be very interesting. Now, granted, they could corroborate her testimony. But from what we've been able to derive from the unredacted portions of the White House documents, I don't believe so, because there is testimony in there from people who were with the president who what they say happened is not lining up directly with what she said.
Unbelievable. We know what's happening, certainly with Mayorkas and the Department of Homeland Security not releasing these documents or even communicating with you or your committee is really stiff-arming the committee. Yes. Can that noncompliance be sort of added to the articles of impeachment that he's likely to face later in February? Mayorkas, that is?
It's possible, since those articles have already passed out of committee. They'll be coming to the floor probably next week or within the next few weeks. That would be something that could be added if we need it. I hope we don't have to get to that. I hope we don't have to get to a subpoena. It's up to the Department of Homeland Security can resolve all of this just by providing the documents. I mean, they need to at least respond to our inquiries. Otherwise, they're in risk of having a contempt of Congress at some point if they don't respond to further, more serious inquiries. We're not here to get anyone in the branches in trouble. We're here to get to the truth.
That's right.
But
Unlike
for
the
some
Democrats
reason,
who really were going, unlike, I mean, and I have to just say it because it was the Democrats who were running this original January 6th committee,
Right.
and it was really aimed at targeting Trump. And people see that because, I mean, look at what we're seeing today unfold. Clearly, there seems that there are some shenanigans going on there. And you know, speaking of Donald Trump and your great state of Georgia, can you give our listeners a little update on what's happening in Georgia? Because there's a lot that's unraveling there as it relates
Right.
to lawsuits against former President Donald Trump.
Yeah, and originally that was kind of a sidebar to what we were doing. I was following it. Jim Jordan, who is the chair of the Judiciary Committee, the DA in Georgia falls predominantly under the authority of the General Assembly, the state legislature, but from a national standpoint, that's in the Judiciary Committee. However, our paths started to converge when we recovered information that the Select Committee may have shared documents with the Fulton County DA, which was interesting to me because I'm trying to find out what documents I still don't have. So I wrote a letter to the Fulton County District Attorney, or I actually wrote a letter to Chairman Benny Thompson, asking him what documents did he send to the Fulton County District Attorney. Jim Jordan actually wrote a letter to the DA asking the same question. Initially, Benny Thompson didn't respond, but he told the media they didn't send any documents. But that was wrong because in the January 6th Select Committee's final report that was issued on December the 22nd, 2022, they stated that documents were provided to the Fulton County DA. And so as of yesterday, we have also learned that Cassidy Hutchinson presented to the Fulton County DA as well. And so if that is true, which it was from a reliable source that she did either testify or meet with them or provide them information, then the credibility of her testimony is probably very important to, I would guess, very important to the DA's case there. And it's which testimony? Was it her original testimony or her latter changed testimony? So there's a lot of inconsistency going on here, and that's why it's extremely important we get to the bottom of this. We need to get to the truth of what really happened. The other side of this is here on the Capitol. How did the security fail and allow these people to get in the Capitol? And you're right, there were terrible acts of violence that happened here. America is soon going to be able to see the full gamut of what happened because the Speaker has told me we're going to get all of the January 6th tapes out there. We're working right now to get all of them out there at a much faster pace than what we had originally scheduled, and I give Speaker Johnson full credit for that. He has basically said he'll give whatever resources we need to responsibly get that out there. So Americans are going to, those who don't think bad things happen, they're going to see the level of violence that happened. But those who claim that everyone there was violent, they're going to see that there was the vast majority of people outside the Capitol were there to protest. There's great contrast to what happened that day. So as I've told our team in the past, is the truth relies somewhere between the people that denied that nothing bad happened and those that claimed that everybody there was terrible. That truth is there in the middle somewhere, and we're looking for evidence. We're following the evidence of where the evidence leads. And for what we've uncovered so far, and I can definitively say this, that evidence was cherry-picked by the Select Committee, that it appears they had a predetermined narrative in mind, and they were pursuing that narrative. At least the politicians on the committee did. Now, whether the professional investigators did, the attorneys did, we're uncertain because the very initial beginning of it looks like maybe they were just following leads. But at some point, when the elected officials started really calling the shots in the investigation, that's when things turned in the wrong direction.
There you go. Do you have a timeline? Is there sort of an expectation of when you think you'll be able to shine more shine more light on truth and get those tapes out there to the American people?
Well, the tapes, I expect to have the full tapes out there within a matter of a couple of months. And part of the reason why it's so hard is just technology, right?
Yes.
They're in a proprietary format with the Capitol Police surveillance system, have to be converted into a internet-friendly format and then physically put up on a server that can handle it. And so it isn't a matter of screening them or determining what can go and what can't go. It's just a matter of converting, which we are doing at record pace right now, and we'll be uploading them as fast as we can. So the full suite of videos I expect to be up, hopefully the whole thing within 60 days. Don't hold me to it because you never know what technological issues you run into. But as far as the rest of the investigation, it's hard to tell. We will have some information coming out in weeks that will basically summarize where we are now, what we've done over the past year, the information we've derived, and the direction we're going to be going. But every day now that the word is getting out of what we're doing, people can see this is a legitimate investigation. This isn't just an investigation to vindicate Donald Trump. This is an investigation to get to the truth of what happened. We're having more and more people come forward, whistleblowers, more information that people are providing daily. And whenever you get more information, you got to dig deeper because we got to verify that information to start with. I don't want to go on some conspiracy theory and it turned out to be wrong, and then that can harm your entire investigation. So we spend a lot of time investigating the information that we're provided to try to determine the validity. Most of what we're getting right now is from very, very good sources. And so we have restructured our committee now to where we have the silos, if you will, of investigation with leads on each one of those. The speaker has tripled our staff. And so we've got more and more people coming on because of how important this is.
It certainly is, and we're so grateful that you're doing this work. Thank you so much, sir. Final question. You're on Capitol Hill. You're doing the work this week. Tell us what you're focused on this week.
Well, as most weeks, most of my time is focused on this investigation and taking us to the next level. As I said, we're putting more resources on getting the videos of January 6th up and loaded. I'm working with other members that have taken on certain aspects of this. We have Thomas Massie of Kentucky, who's on the Judiciary and the Weaponization Committee, has taken a lot of interest in the pipe bombs. And so there's a lot of interesting information there. So we're working with him, providing him information. We've got a lot of critical bills that are coming to the floor that hopefully will be helpful to our economy. Especially as I'm getting closer to that retirement age myself, still a little ways off, but making sure that we have a vibrant economy so our the folks that you represent, that their retirement packages are continuing to increase, not decrease. We've got to pay attention to the economy, but the most important thing we're looking at right now is our southern border. We have got to do something on the southern border, and quite frankly, the only solution to that is have a president who will actually secure the border. This president could do it with the existing laws we have in place. President Trump proved it could be done. He did it. This president doesn't want the border to be secure, in my opinion, and I think that's the opinion of about 80% of Americans in a bipartisan fashion, that we need to do more. We're going to be pushing legislation to do that. We're going to be trying to force the president. But as it comes down to it, the only person who can make this border secure is the person sitting in the White House right now. And this one has shown no inclination to do it. And so that's how important this next election is. But that is not only important to our economy, securing the border is very important to our national security.
Yeah, I think the president recognizes the importance of this upcoming presidential election. He certainly wants to stay in power, and a lot of people are saying, is this why he's keeping the border wide open, so that more and more people who don't embrace American values, that can't speak the language or even have a desire to, oftentimes a lot of bad actors coming over, will they be determining the future president for America, and that is why we've got to be diligent. We've got to secure our country. We so appreciate the work that you're doing, Congressman, Mr. Chairman. Thank you so much for your time. I'd love to invite you back, perhaps in another 2 to 3 months, because this work that you're doing on your committee, understanding what exactly happened. We've got people serving time in jail for, we're not sure, should they really be there? We need to bring a light to truth, Congressman. So this is an important issue we'll be tracking, and would love to invite you back again soon.
All right, thank you. I would love to.
Well, thank you so much again for your leadership, time, and honesty. And to all of you out there listening, be sure to join or renew your AMAC membership. Let your friends and family know about us. We're doing a lot on the state level, on the local level, in your town, in your city, and we're representing you on Capitol Hill. God bless you all. Thank you for tuning in, and have a great day, everyone. Does social engineering from leftist corporations make you feel like we're living in the Twilight Zone? If so, you're not alone, and that's why we're proud to stand behind a wireless company who stands behind your values. I'm talking about Pure Talk, an AMAC-supported wireless company on the nation's largest 5G at half the cost of the big three. So I challenge you to stand with a company who champions your values. Those of you who have always had your neighbor's back, you've pulled yourself up by your own bootstraps, and you still believe that the flag stands for freedom. It's time to join the masses who have fled their old wireless companies for something better. Pure Talk. Pure Talk gives you phenomenal coverage on America's most dependable 5G network for half the price of the other guys, with unlimited plans starting at just $20 a month. The average family saves almost $1,000 a year. And as an exclusive AMAC partner, Pure Talk will give you 3 years free on your AMAC subscription. Just dial 844-8-PURE-TALK and mention AMAC Podcast to make the switch. That's 844-8-PURE-TALK, and make sure to mention AMAC Podcast to get 3 years free on your AMAC subscription.